Subscribe to Storylab. Now, let's begin this one. The desert sun beat down on forward operating base Stryker like a hammer on an anvil. Grant Bradford stood in the operations tent, studying satellite imagery of a compound 20 miles north. Sweat traced lines through the dust on his face, but his green eyes remained sharp, focused. 15 years in Delta Force had taught him that details save lives. Target confirmed, he said to the 4 operators gathered around the table. 3 hostiles, probable weapons cache. We move at 0400. Kevin Shepard, his second in command, nodded. Clean extraction? Only kind we do. Grant's phone buzzed in his pocket. He frowned. Personal devices were restricted during operational planning, but he'd set a priority override for one number. His daughter's. 5 minutes, he told his team, stepping outside into the scorching heat. The phone buzzed again. FaceTime, unusual. Olivia knew better than to call during his deployment unless it was an emergency. He accepted the call. His daughter's face filled the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks, mascara running in black rivers. She was 15, should have been worrying about algebra tests and school dances. Instead, her eyes held a terror that made Grant's blood freeze. "Dad," she sobbed. "Dad, please. Stepdad's friends. They're here. 12 men. They're..." Her voice cracked. "They're hurting me. Please, Dad, I'm so scared." The background showed his ex-wife's house, no Stuart John's house now. The living room where Olivia had opened Christmas presents 2 years ago before the divorce. Now shadows moved behind her, and Grant heard male laughter. "Olivia, baby, where's your mother? Where's Stuart?" His voice stayed calm, but his free hand was already clenched so tight his knuckles went white. "Mom's at some spa weekend," Stuart said. She gasped as someone grabbed her shoulder. The phone jerked, and a man's face filled the screen. Mid-40s, thinning hair, eyes glazed with alcohol and something darker. Well, the famous soldier boy." The man's voice dripped mockery. "Your little girl's ours for the night, hero. Stuart says she needs to learn some manners. And you're what? 6,000 miles away in Iraq? Can't do shit from there, can you?" More laughter erupted behind him. Grant caught glimpses of other men, bottles being passed around. His daughter's muffled crying. "Who are you?" Grant's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Name's Roger. Roger Waters. Me and the boys. We're just having a party. Stuart invited us over, said his stepdaughter needed to be taught a lesson about respect. Something about her complaining to her daddy about him." Roger's smile widened. "So we're gonna teach her real good. And you get to listen to every..." The screen went black as someone ended the call. Grant stood motionless for 3 seconds. Then he was running. Marshall Park had been Grant's commanding officer for 8 years. They'd pulled each other out of burning vehicles in Fallujah, shared foxholes in the Hindu Kush. The colonel looked up from his desk as Grant burst into his quarters without knocking. "Bradford, what? I need emergency leave. Now. Full extraction authority." Grant's words came like gunfire. Park stood, reading the expression on his operator's face. "Talk to me," Grant explained in short, brutal sentences. No emotion, just facts. The phone call. The men. His daughter. When he finished, silence filled the small room, except for the hum of the air conditioning unit. Park walked to his window, looking out over the base. "You're asking me to authorize a domestic operation on American soil. I'm asking you to help me save my daughter's life. The local police will take hours to mobilize. File reports. Navigate jurisdictions." Grant stepped closer. "Sir, those men have my 15-year-old daughter. Every second we waste." "I know." Park turned back. "You'd go anyway, wouldn't you? Even if I said no. Even if it meant court-martial." Without hesitation, the colonel studied him. Then he walked to his desk and picked up the phone. "Give me the logistics officer. I need a C-17 fueled and ready in 30 minutes. He covered the receiver. "You'll need backup." "My entire squadron." "Granted." But Bradford, Park's eyes hardened. "This goes bad. I don't know you. Clear?" "Crystal." "And Bradford? Those men touched your daughter." A pause. "I don't want to know what you do to them, but make damn sure they understand why." The C-17 Globemaster roared through the night sky, engines screaming as it pushed toward maximum speed. Grant sat in the cargo bay, surrounded by 8 of his best operators. Kevin Shepard checked his rifle for the 3rd time. Clint Hoover reviewed building schematics on a tablet. Luke Kirby and Gene Anderson prepped medical supplies. They'd lifted off from Iraq 90 minutes after the phone call. Grant had used the time to make other calls. A friend in the FBI pulled Stuart John's address and ran background checks. What came back made Grant's jaw clench. Stuart Johns, age 43, married Grant's ex-wife Heather 18 months ago. No prior criminal record, but 3 previous marriages, all ending in suspicious circumstances. One ex-wife had filed for a restraining order, later withdrawn. Another had moved out of state with her children and refused to comment to investigators. The 12 men were harder to trace, but Grant had resources. Roger Waters, the one who'd grabbed the phone, had 2 arrests for assault, never convicted. The others were a mix of Stewart's co-workers, drinking buddies, and what looked like hired muscle. 14 hours, Kevin said, checking his watch. We'll be wheels down at 0330 local time. 14 hours. Grant tried not to think about what those men could do in 14 hours. Instead, he thought about what he would do. He'd been 8 years old when his father taught him to hunt. They tracked a wounded buck for 6 hours through Pennsylvania woods. When they finally found it, his father had made him promise something. If you wound something, you finish it. Quick and clean. No suffering unless it's earned. These men had earned suffering. Grant pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos of Olivia. Her 5th birthday, missing her front teeth, middle school graduation, last summer at the beach, both of them building sandcastles like she was still a little girl. She complained the whole time, but couldn't hide her smile. That little girl had called him crying, terrified, hurt. Grant, Kevin sat down across from him. What's the play when we land? We find them, all 12. And then, Grant looked up, and Kevin actually flinched at what he saw in his commander's eyes. Then they learn why you don't touch a Delta Force operator's daughter. The aircraft hummed through the darkness, carrying 8 of America's most lethal soldiers toward a reckoning. The plane touched down at a private airstrip outside Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 200 miles from Stuart John's house in Cincinnati. A convoy of 3 black SUVs waited on the tarmac, keys in the ignition, untraceable. Someone's greasing wheels, Clint muttered. Colonel Park has friends, Grant said. Move out. They drove through the pre-dawn darkness. Grant in the lead vehicle. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, GPS coordinates. 3 locations. Waters, Johns, and the rest split up. One of them live-streamed it. Removed now, but I have the file. You don't want to watch it, JP? JP. John Peterson, NSA analyst Grant had worked with in Afghanistan. The coordinates appeared in a follow-up message. Grant forwarded them to Kevin. 3 locations. We split into teams. They separated? Luke asked from the back seat. That's sloppy. They think they're untouchable. Grant's voice was ice. Men like this, they get away with things so long, they forget consequences exist. The first location was a warehouse in Cincinnati's industrial district. According to Peterson's intel, 4 of the men were there. The second was Roger Waters' house in the suburbs. The third was Stuart John's residence, where it had started. Primary target? Kevin asked. Stuart John's. He organized this. But we clear the others first. I want them to know we're coming. I want them to be afraid. They parked 2 blocks from the warehouse. The building was abandoned, supposed to be. But lights showed through the windows on the 2nd floor, and Grant spotted 2 vehicles in the lot. He let his team in, hand signals only. Years of close-quarters combat training made them shadows. They breached the side entrance, clearing rooms with mechanical precision. The 4 men were on the 2nd floor, drinking beer and watching football on a battery-powered TV. They never heard Delta Force coming. Grant recognized one from the brief glimpse during the FaceTime call. Younger, maybe 30, with a tattoo sleeve on his left arm. The man looked up, beer halfway to his lips, and froze. Don't, he started. Kevin had him on the ground in 2 seconds, zip-tied, gagged. The others tried to run. They made it 5 feet before Grant's team had them secured. Grant knelt in front of the tattooed man, pulled the gag down just enough for him to speak. You were at Stuart John's house last night. You touched my daughter. The man's eyes went wide with recognition. We didn't, it was just... Save it. Grant replaced the gag. You're going to wish you'd stayed home. His phone buzzed. Kevin, from the second location. 3 secured at Waters' residence. He's one of them. Asking for you. Grant smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. Load them in the trucks. I want everyone in one place. Where? Clint asked. Grant stood, looking down at the 4 men on the floor. Fear radiated from them now. Good. I know a place. Somewhere we won't be interrupted. 20 miles south of Cincinnati, Grant's old mentor owned 300 acres of forested land with a hunting cabin at the center. The man had been Army Rangers in Vietnam, understood certain situations without needing explanations. One phone call and Grant had the location secured. They arrived just as the sun broke over the horizon. The cabin sat in a clearing, surrounded by dense woods. No neighbors for miles. No cell signal. Perfect isolation. Grant's teams dragged 11 men into the cabin's main room. They were zip-tied to chairs in a circle, gags still in place. Grant counted them twice. 11, not 12. Where's Stuart Johns? He asked Kevin. Still at his house. Under surveillance. Gene's watching him. He doesn't know we're here? Doesn't seem to. He's been making phone calls, trying to reach these idiots. Getting worried. Good. Let him worry. Let him feel a fraction of what Olivia had felt. Grant walked to the center of the circle, studying each man. Roger Waters, the one who grabbed the phone. 2 others from Stewart's workplace, according to the background checks, Pedro Harper and Chris Cook, both with histories of violence toward women. The rest were hired help. Low-level criminals Stewart had paid to participate. Here's how this works, Grant said quietly. You're going to tell me everything. Who planned it? Why? What you did to my daughter. He paused. And then you're going to pay for it. One of them, Pedro, tried to speak through his gag. Grant nodded to Kevin, who removed it. This is kidnapping. Pedro said. You can't. Grant moved faster than the man could track, his hand closing around Pedro's throat. My 15-year-old daughter called me crying. 12 of you spent hours terrorizing her. And you want to talk about legal? He released his grip. We're past legal. Way past. He stepped back, gesturing to Luke and Clint. Search them. Phones, wallets, everything. They found what Grant expected. Text messages coordinating the party. Photos they'd taken. Grant refused to look at those, just had Kevin secure them as evidence. And messages from Stuart Johns, promising payment, promising protection. Boss, Kevin said, handing him a phone. This one has a video. Grant took it, steeled himself, and pressed play. The video was shaky, obviously filmed on a phone, but clear enough. It showed Olivia in her living room, surrounded by men. She was crying, pleading. The video lasted 30 seconds before Grant stopped it. He looked at the men in the circle. 12 of you terrorized one 15-year-old girl. Made her beg. Made her cry. His voice dropped to a whisper. Did any of you stop to think she had a father who'd come for her? Roger Waters spat at Grant's feet. You're just one man. What are you gonna? Grant's fist broke his nose. Blood sprayed across the floor. I'm not one man. I'm a Delta Force commander with 8 of America's most lethal operators. And we have all the time in the world. His phone buzzed. Text from Gene. Johns is on the move. Heading toward you. ETA 30 minutes. Perfect. The architect of this nightmare was coming to check on his handiwork. Kevin, prep the welcome party. I want Johns alive and coherent. The others. Grant looked at the circle of men. We'll handle them one at a time. He walked outside, needing air. The morning was beautiful. Birds singing in the trees. Somewhere in this peaceful scene, monsters had gathered to hurt his daughter. His phone rang. Olivia. Dad? Her voice was small, broken. Are you there? Are you home? I'm stateside, baby. Where are you? Hospital. The police came last night after those men left. They found me. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have. Stop. Grant's voice cracked for the first time. This is not your fault. None of it. Do you hear me? She sobbed. They said such awful things. Did such awful. I know, baby. And I promise you, every single one of them is going to pay. How? They're gone. Police don't even know who they all were. I do. Grant watched Kevin and Clint setting up inside the cabin. And I'm handling it. What does that mean? He chose his words carefully. It means your dad's taking care of things. It means you're safe now. It means this never happens to you again. Silence. Then, I want to see it. See what? What you do to them. Her voice hardened in a way that broke his heart. I want to watch. I want them to know I'm watching. Grant closed his eyes. His little girl, who cried at sad movies and rescued injured birds, was asking to witness violence. They'd changed her, taken something innocent and twisted it. Olivia. Please, Dad. I need this. I need to know they're suffering like they made me suffer. He thought about the hunting lesson from his father. No suffering unless it's earned. These men had earned it. Okay, he said. But we do this my way. And afterward, you talk to someone. A therapist, counselor, someone. Deal? Deal. Grant hung up and walked back inside. The men in the circle tracked him with fearful eyes. Change of plans, he announced. We're going to have an audience. Stuart Johns pulled up to the cabin at 0847 hours, driving a silver Mercedes. Grant watched through the window as Stuart parked, checked his phone, then walked toward the door with the confidence of a man who'd never faced real consequences. Kevin opened the door before Stuart could knock. The Stuart's eyes widened as he took in the scene. His 12 guests, bound and bloodied, arranged in a circle. 8 Delta Force operators standing guard, and Grant Bradford in the center, waiting. Hello, Stuart, Grant said. Come in. We've been expecting you. Stuart tried to run, made it 3 steps before Luke tackled him, zip ties appearing like magic to secure his wrists. They dragged him into the cabin, forced him into a chair at the center of the circle, facing his co-conspirators. You can't do this, Stuart said, trying for authority, but his voice shook. I'm a respected businessman. I have lawyers. You touch me, and what? Grant crouched in front of him. You'll call the police? Tell them how the father of the girl you arranged to have assaulted is holding you accountable. He smiled. Go ahead. Call them. Stuart's eyes darted to his bound friends. I didn't arrange anything. They came over, things got out of hand. Grant held up a phone. We have the text messages. Your planning, your payments, your promises that she'd be taught a lesson. He stood. You wanted to hurt my daughter, to punish her for what? Telling me you were a controlling asshole? For making you look bad. She's disrespectful. Needs discipline. The slap echoed in the cabin. Stuart's head snapped to the side, a red mark blooming on his cheek. You don't get to touch my daughter. You don't get to punish her. You don't get to invite your degenerate friends to terrorize her. Grant's voice was surgical in its calm. You made a mistake, Stuart. You forgot that I'm not some suburban dad you can intimidate. I'm a weapon the government points at its enemies. He nodded to Kevin. Set up the video call. They propped a tablet on a table, angled so it captured the entire circle of men. Grant dialed Olivia's number. She answered immediately. She was in a hospital room, bruises visible on her face, but her eyes were dry now. Determined. Hi, baby, Grant said softly. I have everyone here. All 12 men from last night. Plus Stuart. Olivia stared at the screen, taking in the bound men. Grant watched her expression shift from fear to recognition to something harder. Good, she said. Roger Waters made a sound through his gag. Grant walked over, removed it. Please, Roger said. We made a mistake. We're sorry. Just let us. Tell her. Grant interrupted. Tell my daughter what you said to me on the phone. Roger's mouth worked silently. Tell her, Grant repeated, voice dropping to dangerous levels. Or I start breaking fingers. I said, Roger's voice cracked. I said you were ours for the night. That your dad couldn't do anything because he was in Iraq. And what did you do after you said that? Olivia asked. Her voice was steady, cold. Roger started crying. Actually crying. We scared you. Pushed you around. Said things. Awful things. You did more than that. Olivia's eyes never left the screen. You held me down. You touched me. All 12 of you took turns while the others watched and laughed. The cabin went silent except for Roger's sobbing. Dad, Olivia said. Make them understand. Grant nodded slowly. Kevin. Medical kit. What followed was methodical. Clinical. Grant and his team spent the next hour delivering the kind of pain that left no permanent physical damage, but carved itself into memory. They'd learned these techniques in SERI training, understood the psychology of suffering. Roger Waters was first. They started with pressure points, nerve clusters that sent white-hot agony through his body without leaving marks. He screamed into his gag, thrashed against his restraints. Grant let it continue for 5 minutes, then stopped. That was 5 minutes, he told the screen, told Olivia. You suffered for hours. We're just getting started. Pedro Harper was next. Then Chris Cook. One by one, Grant's team worked through the circle. Some men begged. Some tried to maintain defiance. All of them broke. Through it all, Olivia watched. Grant checked on her repeatedly, making sure she was okay, giving her the option to stop. Each time, she shook her head. I need to see this, she said. I need to know they can't hurt anyone else. At hour 3, they reached Stuart Johns. The man who'd orchestrated everything sat trembling, having watched his friends suffer. Why? Grant asked him. Why my daughter? She's poisonous. Stuart shouted. Turned your ex-wife against me. Told lies about how I disciplined her. Disciplined? Grant's voice could have frozen fire. What discipline? Stuart went silent. Grant pulled up his phone, showed Stuart the screen. Medical records, Kevin had obtained them during the flight. Documentation of bruises Olivia had gone to the school nurse about. Reports she'd been too afraid to file with police. You hit her, Grant said. Multiple times over 6 months. Then when she threatened to tell me, you decided to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. I never touched her inappropriately. That was them. Stuart gestured wildly at the other men. But you invited them. You told them what to do. You watched. Stuart's face went gray. Dad. Olivia's voice came through the tablet. Can I ask him something? Of course, baby. She leaned closer to her camera. Stuart, do you remember what you said to me before your friends arrived? Stuart said nothing. You said, your father can't protect you anymore. I'm in charge now. And tonight, you're going to learn that. Her voice shook but held firm. You wanted me broken. Wanted me too scared to ever stand up to you again. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Grant cut him off. And now you're going to understand what it means to be helpless. To be surrounded by people who want to hurt you. To beg and have no one listen. They worked on Stuart for 2 hours. Carefully. Precisely. Grant had been trained to extract information from hardened terrorists. Stuart Johns was a cowardly businessman who'd gotten used to being the biggest predator in his small pond. He told them everything. How he'd cultivated friendships with violent men specifically for this purpose. How he'd planned it for weeks, waiting until Heather was away. How he'd filmed it to use as leverage, to keep Olivia silent. The video, Grant said. Where is it? Cloud storage. Password protected. Grant nodded to Clint, who'd been working on Stuart's confiscated phone. Got it. Deleting now? No! Stuart shouted. That's my insurance. Insurance? Grant laughed, bitter and cold. Against what? Your conscience? At hour 6, Grant called a halt. The men in the circle were broken, weeping, begging for mercy. Stuart Johns had soiled himself twice. Grant walked to the tablet, spoke directly to his daughter. Olivia, we're almost done. But I need you to understand something. What happens next, there's no taking it back. These men hurt you, and they deserve to pay. But if we cross certain lines, if we become like them, Dad, she interrupted gently. They took something from me, my safety, my trust, my childhood. Her eyes hardened. I wanted to pay the price. All of it. Grant studied her face. His little girl was gone, replaced by someone older, harder. They'd done that. Stolen her innocence and left this behind. Okay, he said quietly. Then you choose. Who pays first? Olivia looked at each man on the screen, taking her time. Grant saw the wheels turning, saw her processing everything she'd witnessed. Finally, she pointed at one man. Mid-30s, unremarkable face, had been quiet through most of the proceedings. Him, Reuben Poole. He was the one who held me down while the others she couldn't finish the sentence. Grant walked to Reuben, who was shaking his head frantically behind his gag. My daughter has spoken, Grant said. And in my experience, women who've been hurt always know who hurt them worst. He looked at his team. Kevin, Luke, take him outside. You know what to do. They dragged Reuben from the cabin. His muffled screams faded into the forest. Grant turned back to the remaining men. That's 11 to go, and my daughter gets to choose each one. The next hour was methodical. Olivia selected Roger Waters, second the man who'd taunted Grant on the phone. Then Pedro Harper, who'd been particularly cruel with his words during the assault. Then Chris Cook, who'd organized logistics for Stewart. Each man was taken outside. Each faced justice delivered by Delta Force operators who'd spent years becoming experts in violence. Each faced consequences they'd never imagined when they'd thought terrorizing a teenage girl would be consequence-free fun. Finally, only Stuart Johns remained, surrounded by empty chairs and the ghosts of his co-conspirators. "Olivia," Grant said, "last choice is yours. What happens to Stuart?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I want him to live." Grant raised an eyebrow. "You're sure?" "I want him to live and remember this every day. I want him to wake up afraid, to jump at shadows, to know that if he ever hurts anyone again, you'll come back." She leaned closer to the camera. "I want him to spend the rest of his life being the victim for once." Pride surged through Grant. His daughter hadn't been broken. She'd been forged into something stronger. "You heard her," he told Stuart. "You get to live. But here's the conditions." He crouched down, making sure Stuart could see his eyes. "You divorce my ex-wife immediately. You surrender all claims to any shared assets. You leave town, leave the state, and you never contact my daughter or my family again." Grant's smile was sharp. "And just so we're clear, I have video of you confessing to orchestrating the assault on a minor. I have your deleted files. I have testimony from 11 other men about your role. You step out of line even once, and all of that goes to the FBI, the media, and every lawyer I can find." "But the others," Stuart whispered. "What happened to them?" "They learned actions have consequences." Grant stood. "Be grateful you're learning that lesson without paying the full price." Kevin stepped forward with a contract he'd prepared. Divorce papers, property surrender, gag order about the night's events. Stuart signed with shaking hands. "One more thing," Grant said. "You're going to call Heather. You're going to tell her the marriage is over and why. And you're going to make sure she knows that if she ever questions Olivia about what happened, I'll be back to finish what we started tonight." Stuart made the call. Heather's voice came through the speaker, confused at first, then angry, then horrified as Stuart explained everything. When he finished, there was silence. Then, "Olivia? Is Olivia okay?" "She will be," Grant answered, taking the phone. "But you and I need to have a conversation about how you chose this man over protecting your daughter." "I didn't know," Heather said. "I swear, Grant, I didn't know he was capable of." "But you knew he was controlling. You knew Olivia complained about him. You chose to ignore it because it was easier than dealing with it." Grant's voice was harder than he'd ever used with his ex-wife. "That ends now. She's coming to live with me. Full custody. You don't object. You don't fight it. You sign the papers." "Grant, please. She's my daughter too." "Then you should have protected her like one." He hung up. 3 days later, Grant sat in a lawyer's office in Cincinnati. Across from him, Heather signed the custody modification papers. Her hand shaking, she looked older. Then he remembered, worn down by guilt. "Can I see her?" she asked quietly, "just to apologize." Grant considered it. "Then, when she's ready, not before." Outside, Olivia waited in the car. She'd been discharged from the hospital with prescriptions for antibiotics and trauma therapy. The physical wounds would heal. The others would take longer. Grant slid into the driver's seat. "Done. You're with me now." Olivia nodded, looking out the window. "What happened to them?" "Really?" He'd been expecting this question, dreading it. "They're gone," he said. "Far away where they can't hurt anyone." "Did you kill them?" Grant met her eyes. "Would it matter to you if I had?" She thought about it. "I don't know. Part of me wants them dead. Part of me is scared of wanting that." "That's normal." He started the car. "You're allowed to feel whatever you feel about this. Anger, fear, satisfaction, guilt, all of it's valid. What do you feel?" That justice was served. Maybe not legal justice, but justice nonetheless. He pulled onto the street. "Those men hurt you. They paid for it. Now, we focus on putting you back together." The first therapy session was the next day. Dr. Marion Simmons specialized in trauma, particularly in victims of assault. She was patient, gentle, and gave Olivia space to process everything. Grant waited in the lobby, reviewing reports Kevin had sent. The cleanup from their operation had been thorough. No traces left at the cabin. The men's disappearances looked like unrelated incidents. Some had supposedly left town, others had accidents. none traceable back to Grant or his team. Stuart Johns had kept his word. Divorce finalized within a week, house sold, moved to Arizona. Grant had contacts watching him, making sure he stayed quiet and stayed away. Mr. Bradford? Dr. Simmons appeared in the doorway. Can I speak with you? In her office, she gestured to a chair. Olivia's doing remarkably well, considering. She's processing her trauma in healthy ways. But she paused. She mentioned witnessing the confrontation with her attackers. Can you tell me about that? Grant chose his words carefully. She needed closure. Needed to know they couldn't hurt her anymore. I made sure she got that. I see. Dr. Simmons studied him. Mr. Bradford, I'm not going to ask what happened. Legally, I'm bound to report certain things. But what a patient tells me about hypothetical situations, or what a parent does to protect their child in ambiguous circumstances, she shrugged. That's a gray area. What I will say is this. Olivia feels safe for the first time in months. She feels empowered. That's significant. But revenge, even justified revenge, can become a crutch. She needs to learn to process trauma through healthy channels, not just through the satisfaction of seeing her attackers punished. We'll work on it, Grant promised. Over the following weeks, he and Olivia established new routines. School enrollment, a private academy with good security, therapy 3 times a week, self-defense classes at Grant's insistence. Slowly, carefully, they rebuilt. One evening, 2 months after that terrible night, Olivia found Grant in his home office, reviewing mission reports from his latest deployment briefing. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret it? What you did to them? Grant set down his papers, giving her his full attention. No. They hurt you. They deserved what happened. Even if it was illegal? Especially because it was illegal. The law failed you, Olivia. Those men would have gotten light sentences, if they were charged at all. Stuart would have claimed he didn't know what they'd do. They would have painted you as a liar, a troubled teen, anything to escape consequences. He stood, walked to her. I couldn't let that happen. She hugged him, fierce and tight. Thank you. For coming home, for making them pay. I'll always come home for you. He kissed the top of her head. Always. That night, after Olivia went to bed, Grant's phone buzzed. Message from Marshall Park, heads up. Some people asking questions about missing persons connected to a Stuart Johns. Keep your head down, Grant typed back. Any concerns? None. Trail's cold. Just wanted you aware. How's your daughter? Healing. Getting stronger every day. Good. That's what matters. Park out. Grant deleted the message thread, then checked the security system. Motion sensors active, cameras online, weapons secured but accessible. Old habits from a lifetime of staying alert. He poured a bourbon, stood at the window, looking out at the quiet street. Somewhere out there, Stuart Johns was probably jumping at shadows, wondering if tonight was the night Grant came back. The other men, well, they'd learned their lessons permanently. Was it justice? Maybe not by legal standards. But Grant had spent 15 years serving his country, following rules of engagement, watching lawyers and bureaucrats turn clear-cut right and wrong into shades of gray. His daughter had needed him. He'd answered that call the only way he knew how. He finished his bourbon, checked on Olivia one more time, sleeping peacefully, finally, and went to bed. 3 months later, Olivia made the honor roll at her new school. 6 months later, she earned her first-degree black belt in Krav Maga. A year later, she gave a speech at a survivors support group about finding strength after trauma. Through it all, Grant watched his daughter transform from victim to survivor to warrior. Not in the military sense, but in the way that mattered, someone who'd faced darkness and come through it stronger. The scars remained, probably always would, but they were healing, and that was enough. On the anniversary of that terrible night, Olivia asked to visit the cabin one more time. Grant hesitated, but she insisted. They drove out together, parked in the same clearing. The cabin looked different in daylight, peaceful. Birds sang in the trees. Sunlight filtered through the leaves. This is where you made them pay, Olivia said. Not a question. Yes. She walked to the cabin, touched the door. I needed this place. Needed to know someone fought for me. Literally fought. No rules, no holding back. I'd do it again. Grant stood beside her. Every time, every way, always. She turned to him. And he saw the little girl she'd been mixed with the strong young woman she was becoming. I know. That's why I can heal. Because I know my dad's got my back, no matter what. They stood there in the clearing, father and daughter, bound by love and violence, and the kind of justice that doesn't make it into law books. Finally, Olivia nodded. Okay, I'm ready to go home now. As they drove away, Grant caught her smiling at something on her phone. A text from a friend about weekend plans. Normal teenage stuff. The kind of thing she deserved to worry about. Mission accomplished, he thought. His daughter was safe. The men who'd hurt her had paid the price. And if anyone ever tried something similar again, well, Grant Bradford was a patient man. But he was also Delta Force. And he never forgot a face. The car merged onto the highway, carrying them toward home, toward healing, toward a future where Olivia could be the person she was always meant to be. Behind them, the cabin faded into the forest, keeping its secrets.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will